We are thrilled to be joined by Marc Spears. He does his work now on a variety of platforms, including Anscape, anscape.com, ANDSCAPE.com. Longtime NBA guy. Marc, welcome to the show.
How y'all doing?
We're doing well. We appreciate it. We have a mutual friend in Raymond Ritter from the Golden State Warriors who helped us set this up, so we appreciate your time.
Legend Raymond Ritter.
Yeah.
Legend.
He's one of a kind.
He is, obviously he's from Wichita, the Warriors PR guru, but just so you guys know, man, he is so revered and so loved here in the Bay Area. Like, he's an iconic person. I mean, like, he's the only PR person I know where the team fans know who he is, and Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they joke about him all the time, but it's all in love. So he's certainly super. Your homeboy is really respected out here.
Good. Well, we were talking earlier, Marc, about baseball's postseason and the lack of buzz that it has, and the NBA just overshadows almost everything. But it's NBA opening night, and there certainly is a lot of hype about that. So what do you make of the sports landscape as it relates to media in 2023? And we'll get more into the specifics of the NBA here in a moment.
Well, it's a unique, exciting time with, like, social media, and this is going to be my 25th season covering the NBA, and there's a huge difference between year one and year 25. Like, I have a Bradley Beal diary right now that's on video. I'm doing interviews on Skype. I did earlier on the Kerry Champion show. I did another interview with Front Office Sports, which just started like 2 years ago. So the landscape, because of social media, because of the internet, and I also think the pandemic caused people to be more creative in the way that they do interviews nationally. It just made our everyday way we do our job now so much more unique and creative than certainly it was 10 years ago.
So we got 2 games tonight, Lakers, Nuggets, and then the Suns and the Warriors. Will one of those teams win the NBA championship?
You know what? If you said, I think a good question is, would you take those 4 teams or the field?
Yeah.
I would take the 4 teams. I definitely would. Obviously the Nuggets are champs. The Lakers are better now than they were a season ago, and they were in the West Finals. Now the Warriors are healthy. They got a much better Jonathan Kuminga. You add some additional veteran strength mentally to that team, and Chris Paul, and some size and flourish. And then also the Suns, man, they're a monster with their big 3. So if I was a betting man, as much as I like Milwaukee and as much as I like Boston, if I had to take those 4 teams or the field, I would take those 4 teams.
Marc Spears, our guest, longtime NBA writer, has worked a lot with ESPN. He's currently on Anscape, ANDSCAPE.com. So let's talk about the Warriors, because
which is a part of ESPN. It's under the ESPN umbrella.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Warriors certainly have had tons of success in recent years. The addition of Chris Paul, where maybe Golden State was lacking a little bit is when Steph Curry was not on the floor. Their offense certainly suffered. Will Chris Paul help with that, you believe, Marc?
Yeah, you can make an argument that the 2 best IQs in the NBA are Chris Paul and Draymond Green in terms of basketball IQs. And so I see with Chris's addition that Steph and Klay and Wiggins are getting better shots than they were a year ago. The challenge comes in size, which has, to me, been the Warriors' Achilles heel the last couple of years. It's like Kevon Looney against the world in terms of their size. And they did add Saric. The Warriors are still a really, really small team. So oftentimes, if you want to beat them, you just keeping the one shot, pound on the boards, and that could be an issue. So I'm very curious tonight how that lack of size. I don't know that the Suns are a team that really can exploit that. But when you're playing, say, Denver or playing the Lakers or Milwaukee or, Boston, teams that have more size, that could be an issue. So I'm curious to how they use Chris the entire season. Chris has never come off the bench his entire NBA career, if you could believe that. So I'm curious to what happens when Draymond comes back, probably in the next game, what they do with their lineup. Do they keep him in? He seems open-minded about coming off the bench. He really doesn't have a choice, right? I mean, it wouldn't look good if he fought it. But I think if he does accept a bench role, whenever that does come, it will certainly accentuate their second team, who has, I think, a young player that's about to really blossom into potential superstardom in Jonathan Kuminga, who may have had the best preseason in the NBA other than maybe what we saw from Victor Wembanyama.
So, Marcus, what changed with the Lakers as far as their philosophy on building a roster? They went from, wanting to get as many stars or as many veterans as possible to now they're building depth and kind of filling in around the edges. You look at their roster, certainly not a lot of household names, but really quality NBA players like 1 through 13 or 14 with guys like Taurean Prince, Rui Hachimura. They got Christian Wood, who's been serviceable, Jared Vanderbilt. These guys are all pretty useful. So what happened specifically with the Lakers, and do you think that's more of an NBA philosophy now that you don't need 3 or 4 stars to win a championship? You can do it with 2 and depth.
Well, I mean, Austin Reeves, I guess you could maybe consider him the third of the big three there now. He played for USA Basketball and taken a step forward. But what I like about what they've done is they've just really, really strengthened their supporting cast. Rui Hachimura, as you mentioned, came last year. They added a lob threat in Jackson Hayes, who came from New Orleans. Taurean Prince is a tough defender who has played for Darvin Ham in the past. Cam Reddish is an interesting guy that should be a three-point threat that the Lakers could certainly use, but this top 5 pick has never been able to break out. I think the reason why the Lakers got Christian Wood isn't as an insurance policy for Anthony Davis. It's very unlikely or not expected that Anthony Davis is going to play all 82. So if you could put a player in that can kind of mimic who he is as a player, I think Christian Wood can really do that. I think he was definitely a steal. I mean, you're talking about a guy who averaged 17 for Dallas last year. And then Gabe Vincent. You got Gabe Vincent coming off the bench. He was starting for the Heat last year. I really like the Lakers bench. I think it's gotten a lot better. I'm really curious to how they look tonight against Denver. And I do expect this Denver game to be emotionally charged, more so than you would see a ring ceremony game, because there is some beef between the Lakers and the Nuggets, because the Nuggets got, eliminated the Lakers, but after they did and the Nuggets made it to the finals for the first time, LeBron said he was considering retiring. So he got all the headlines nationally and internationally while nobody talked about Denver. I don't know a championship team that has less buzz than the Denver Nuggets. And so I think the Nuggets would really, really like to make a statement while they're getting their rings tonight, whereas I think LeBron is probably still mad at Michael Malone for calling them out.
Marc Spears, our guest, national writer for the NBA from ESPN. I do have to ask you about another one of our own, Adrian Griffin, who's from right here in Wichita, now the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. You mentioned them as one of the teams to watch, certainly with the tremendous star power of their own. How do you think Adrian Griffin will do as a first-year NBA coach?
It's a great question. I forgot that he was from there. I sat down with him on Media Day. And, what I love about him and his story is he's a guy that hasn't been given anything. right? Like he basically was an undrafted player, bounced around the NBA, had a cup of coffee here, a cup of coffee there. Nobody gave him anything. His coaching career has certainly been the same way. And typically, like guys like him don't get this kind of opportunity. Usually, you get some lackluster team and on the bottom of the barrel. So there's a lot of pressure on Adrian to like show and prove now. Terry Stotts departing from his coaching staff was a little curious and odd. I can't say I've really ever seen that. Coach leaving during training camp. But I hear that the players like him and his mentality, and he has a superpower team. So I mean, to me in the East, it's probably going to be Boston or Milwaukee. So for him to potentially be in the finals or NBA champ, like as his first year as a coach, is, I mean, who gets that kind of opportunity, right?
I'll stick kind of in Wichita, too, and ask you about Fred VanVleet going to the Rockets. They've kind of decided to be a grown-up team now, an adult team with a new coach, Ime Udoka, also. So what does he bring to them, and can he get a little bit more out of their recent other high picks, Jalen Green and Jabari Smith?
Well, let me first say this. I hope Fred VanVleet's family is listening. He is one of the most wonderful, great human beings I've ever met in my life. Just a phenomenal person. And you guys know this from the Shockers days, right? When I made it to the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame as a Kurt Gowdy Award winner, he's one of the few players that actually like text me and say congrats. Like, he's always checking in, seeing how you doing. Just always, I did a diary with him during the NBA bubble. And that's when I really, really started to get to know him a little bit, know a lot about his family and everything and all the different things that he does. And he's just, I think he's a godsend for the Houston Rockets. Going to have a great year. Might surprise them with that talent, the young talent and the coach that they have. And I can't speak nothing but positive, super vibes for this dude, man. He's, I'm supposed to like treat everybody the same, right? But he's certainly one of my favorite just people, man. He's just a phenomenal human being, and I wish him all the best this season. I think he's gonna lift the Rockets to a surprising area. They're kind of not a dark horse in terms of winning anything big, but at least a dark horse in terms of making the playoffs. I'm keeping my eye on them, and if they do well, I think Fred is a big reason why they're going to get there.
Marc Spears, our guest, national NBA writer, ESPN. So before we let you go, and I don't think your answer will be Houston, but who is the team that maybe not many people are talking about that could thrust itself into the championship discussion, or at least a deep playoff run discussion? Is there a team that you feel like is entering the season with that kind of potential? You know what?
I want to say Clippers, right? But I think that's an easy pick. So I'm going to get, last year I picked the Kings will make the playoffs, and people looked like I was crazy, and they made it. But the team that is most intriguing to me is the New Orleans Pelicans. Like when Zion is healthy, when they were healthy last season, they were one of the few teams in the West that actually held time on the top of the standings, of the Western Conference standings. And Brandon Ingram's healthy, Zion's healthy. The team still has some health issues, but C.J. McCollum's healthy, Troy Murphy's not. I just think that keep an eye on New Orleans, man. Because if Zion is, the health thing is huge with him, but if he's healthy, I do think that New Orleans could be a problem in the NBA.
And I got to ask you, I do this show with my son, and he's picked the Pacers as his team du jour for this year. Are the Pacers in there at all?
As a surprise team, yeah. Yeah, your son knows his hoops, man. Um, I think that I've heard that in terms of Benedict Mathurin that he really got better in the off season. Not sure if he's starting or not, but Halliburton is going to be an all-star again. He'll have a special year. I think now that I wonder if Buddy Hield gets traded, but Miles Turner, now he's solidified. He knows he's going to be there. That certainly helps. But I really like their team. I don't think they're going to be a title contender by any means or anything like that. But I heard that, also Obi Toppin has been a really nice addition for them. So, yeah, I expect the Patriots to make some noise, like Eastern Conference Championship noise. Nah, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were a playoff team.
6 or 7 seed, potentially.
Yeah.
Mark, great stuff. We really appreciate your time, and we're thankful to Ray Ritter for setting this up with us. And thank you very much, and enjoy the season.
I got one question for you guys.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody on Wichita State that, as an NBA writer, I need to keep an eye on this season?
I would say probably not this year, although the Shockers are starting to turn out guys. I noticed Dexter Dennis got a 2-way contract with Dallas, which was a little bit surprising to me, but I'm happy for Dexter. But I would say probably not on this roster.
Okay. All right.
Jeff, you differ?
I want to see what we get from Colby Rogers. If he's as good of a shooter as he's been advertised to be, that's always a marketable skill. So he was a transfer, didn't play last year, so I'm interested to see what we get out of him.
Okay. Well, I'll check y'all out on TV, man. Pleasure coming on with y'all.